Hi everyone, thanks for clicking. Today we're doing a meter comparison video. So we are going to review all of the meters that we think that you will probably encounter in your shopping.
Yeah, this is quite a collection of meters, and we decided to go with a more formal look here.
I mean, this is a lab study, of course.
It is a lab study.
We did do a bunch of tests in the lab to review these.
Right.
So
yeah. So pieces of paper here just to refer to, but lots of tests were done. These meters were picked because I think it's representative of what's on, what's on the market.
What's comparable for consumer grade quality and price.
Okay.
All right. So to begin, we're starting with the Gigahertz Solutions HF59B.
Right.
So its range is 27 megahertz up to 3 gigahertz.
Yep.
It has a bunch of extra add-ons. It comes with a kit if you would like. You don't have to get the kit though.
Right. So this is the thing with this meter is on its own, it's a fairly expensive meter. Its claimed frequency range and accuracy is true, but in order to get the full performance range of this thing, from the minimum RF power density to the maximum, you need to have the HF59B kit that includes preamplifiers, attenuators, one preamp attenuator, and then there's a notch filter, and then you also need the this omnidirectional antenna. So we'll get into that more on the next meter about antennas. So it's a very expensive proposition. It was actually...
But it is accurate.
It is accurate, yep. And this was actually my second meter that I ever owned in my life. This was the first one. Yeah. Is there anything else?
So for ease of use, it's very complicated. There's a ton of switches that you have to use. You have to know what you're aiming it at or know what your signals you're receiving, pretty much.
Well, yeah. So that's the thing with the omnidirectional. I mean, with the directional antenna, wherever you're pointed, that comes in handy. We'll talk about directional antennas in a bit, but it's very technical. You have to make sure all the switches are in the right position, understand some terminology. And if you're going to be measuring extremely low powers or extremely high powers, it's important the switches are in the right position. You have to unscrew these are little called SMA connectors here, and you've got to put the, in this case, this is the preamplifier, so you've got to screw that one on, and then you've got to,
So they're not exactly easy to use.
They're not easy to use. But again, from an RF design point of view, I mean, obviously good RF engineering was done to make these things, and that's the cost. So they'd be great for a lab. Yes.
If you're going to be in a lab, or if you're an RF specialist, they'd be great for that.
Yep.
They can be used continuously. They can be plugged in.
They can be plugged in.
They're chargeable.
Yeah, they've got input outputs to do data logging and things like that. Gigahertz Solutions makes their MagField meter, which does data logging. Volume control, variable volume control. So what it's hearing right now is our
microphones,
our wireless microphones, transmitters. Yeah. Anyway, a very expensive meter, but it does what it says. But you have to have some technical knowledge to use it.
So moving on to the HF35C, also by Gigahertz Solutions.
Right. Yeah. You have your summary on that one? Yes.
It has the same frequency range, 27 megahertz up to 3 gigahertz.
Provided you use this antenna.
Right.
Right. There's the caveat.
The same stipulations as the previous meter. It's kind of complicated to use. There's lots of extra pieces that you need to on. So it's not like a point and shoot kind of thing. You have to have the right preamps, antennas.
If you want to use the full range of the meter. So here's the thing. This antenna will only cover about, I think it's about 700 megahertz to 2.7 gigahertz, something like that. These antennas are incredibly useful. If I want to know exactly where the transmitter source is coming from, they're very, very good for direction finding.
Which is why it's a directional antenna.
It's a very directional antenna. But if you want to measure overall exposure, I mean, my body is not a directional antenna.
No.
Do you know that? My body is not a directional. I'm an
Hopefully
omnidirectional
not.
antenna. So in other words, wherever RF is coming from, it's hitting my body. It's going to be, this is an omnidirectional antenna. It picks up RF from all directions. And so the antenna that comes with the base kit of this is this directional antenna. So in order to...
Great for source finding, not great for biological relevance.
Yes, that's right, exactly. So you have to spend extra money on this antenna, and then if you want to extend the range to lower power densities or higher power densities, then you're spending more money on these. Again, it's an accurate meter. It does well, but not as complicated to use as that one, as the 59, but you have to have some knowledge for it. Was there anything else that, again, it has sound of variable volume
all of them
control.
have sound, don't they?
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We should mention also these first two meters don't do low frequency mag fields or E fields.
Right. Yeah. So they're just RF.
We're just talking RF.
For all of them, just because some of them do mag fields. All right.
Okay.
The TriField. Wow. So first off, I actually kind of like the feel of this meter. It's nice and hefty. It feels like a good quality meter. This screen is fun. It kind of sounds like a...
It's like a Nintendo video game.
Yeah, it does sound like a Nintendo. Yeah, it was like very vintage. Great feel. Screen is super cool.
Yeah, maybe you can get a close-up of the screen in the video.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's pretty
It's a beautiful looking LCD screen.
It is.
You can choose whether to have the backlight on or off. In order to do that, you have to take the cover off and push these buttons.
Also, this is volume control. That brings us up to the next one of the later points. It is not rechargeable. It has a 9-volt battery, which everyone knows they're kind of not great.
Well, it won't have a great lifespan. Very convenient. You can get 9-volt batteries.
Yeah, they are convenient. Yeah, they're available everywhere.
Turn that off. Yes, it was making noise.
It does do mag fields and fields, but we are not going to review that because they are prevalent and usually pretty accurate. So
so what we can say about any meters that are most any meters that are in the market for low frequency stuff, mag fields or E fields, is that because it's not really complicated technology to make fairly accurate detectors for those frequencies, they're all pretty good. Yeah. So this meter actually is a fairly good Gauss meter for AC mag fields, and an E field meter. It's 3-axis. In that respect, it's good. But as far as RF performance is concerned,
we're a little disappointed in it. So it's not going to pick up any pulse sources, so like Bluetooth or anything like that. It's not great for that aspect, and its range is not overly impressive.
Well, so the pulse width it does not detect narrow pulses, and anything below what we measured was actually 9 milliseconds. It may not. It's compared to these other meters, pretty much any of these meters here. We'll get into these ones. Compared to that, pulse width detection on this is extremely poor. It's almost useless for digital communications.
Its continuous wave is good, but it says it's good for up to 6 gigahertz. And what would you measure? Less than 3? Yeah,
the performance dropped off after 3 gigahertz. Last night I took this thing down. It does claim to measure down to, I think it was
20 megahertz.
20 megahertz.
Which is pretty low compared to most of the other meters.
And it does do that, but it's very notchy at those frequencies. So I found that it measured 20 megahertz. But 24 megahertz, there was a notch there that it really didn't do so well, but it did good. Done good at 30 megahertz. It did good at 30 megahertz.
It did well.
Did well.
Yeah. So price-wise, it's actually not the most expensive thing, but if you want RF, I would not highly recommend it.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for RF. For prettiness and prettiness and
feel.
Yes, this knob is vintage classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Next, the Cornet, the ED88T Plus.
Okay.
Somebody has some strong opinions about that one. You can feel the quality, really.
So,
it's on too.
Oh.
Did that turn it on? Yeah.
I think my thumb turned it on.
The frequency range, I would say, is decent, but it doesn't. It claims up to 8, and we saw a drop off after 7.
Very sharp drop off after 7.
Abrupt.
Yeah, so that noise was the 9-volt battery rattling inside.
Again, 9 volt.
All of these meters, by the way, have been opened up, and I looked inside. We've looked inside. The build quality on these meters, is very good. This is concerning. What's inside there, and that's one thing.
The screen is really bright, and it's got a lot of stuff going on the screen. It's got this wonderful bar graph that actually is more accurate than the numbers sometimes.
Well, it picks up things that the numbers don't show. There's a lot of information on the screen. Way too much information. All these numbers are happening. There's all these different things on the screen.
Also, I don't like that it says light for the back screen, and then you hold that down, and that's how you turn the sound on. That seems
right. So yeah, when I first used it, obviously this one you really have to read the instructions in order to use it. But intuitive things like if you want to hear sound of what the demodulated the detector is hearing, you have to push and hold the light button.
You can charge it.
I don't know how to turn on the sound.
For continuous use.
Yes, you can.
It does have a lot of the same features that the other ones have as well.
Oh, there
we go.
That's weird. The sound just...
Maybe you shook it loose.
Oh, now I turned it off again.
Apparently it's very easily damaged as well.
Yeah, so this power switch is a little intermittent. I just moved this dial a little bit and it turned off.
Yep, so some strong thoughts on that. It's easy to point at and receive signals. It's not like you need a special antenna or anything like that.
No, it's omnidirectional.
Yeah.
Just the accuracy. A pulse width detection. It misses lots of pulses that are. It doesn't do well for narrow pulses. It picks up some of them, but some of them it'll miss. So.
Yes.
Okay. I think that turned it off.
Maybe. Alrighty, so the next one is just because we wanted to show you that there are other meters available outside of North America. This one, the EMF59B, is actually from China. It does mag fields, E fields, and RF as well, just like the TriField does. We didn't really test it just because we compared it to some of the other meters and it was off by 1,000 times?
Well, yeah, it's difficult to test. I mean, this thing, according to the manual and what the display shows...
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on the screen
There's a lot going on. I mean, this does everything, everything, including the kitchen sink. But we could not really test it because the background RF levels right now are measuring thousands of times higher than any of these other meters actually say. So it's so inaccurate
that we just didn't bother.
I was going to say
the screen looks great.
The screen looks good.
It's got a great feel. It's got a lithium-ion battery in it, and it's
single 18650.
Yeah, it's chargeable. It's a good product-based thing, but for what its claims are, it is. Not great.
I wouldn't even call. I would suggest that the best use for this is a night light or a toy for somebody to play with that wants to learn about kids.
Kids play. It's substantially cheaper than most of the other devices, by the way, by like $100.
So in short,
you get what you pay for.
I can't take this thing seriously because it's. I mean, from the RF point of view, it's just so inaccurate. Good, it's off.
Yep. So.
Okay, that one I will just throw that away. That's just.
Next, we have the Acousticom 2.
Okay.
So. Its claimed frequency range is 200 megahertz to 8 gigahertz. Mm-hmm. Pretty decent range. We found it was reasonably good, but it has a massive dip at 5.6 gigahertz. So it's missing a lot of, the stuff that's actually out there right now. Like your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi, the 5.6 gig Wi-Fi band. Before the Safe and Sound Classic meter from from 9CI. This was my go-to pocket meter.
Yeah, it's cute. It's portable.
But I was fooled because I was under the assumption that it would cover the 5.6 gigahertz Wi-Fi band, and its dip in that band in the frequency response is significant. And so I was thinking that there was no concerns, no issues, and then all of a sudden you put a meter there that can actually do that.
Read that meter.
And that's one thing we didn't talk about this one. Sorry, it's just that this one only goes up to 3 gigahertz.
I did mention that, but it's not going to cover everything.
You're right. So if you want a meter, if you want a gigahertz solutions meter that's going to cover the 5.6 gig Wi-Fi band, you have to buy a whole other meter. So you're going to be carrying 2 meters with it. So anyway, and then this thing drops off fairly rapidly after, there's a little, after I think it was 7.5 gigahertz, something like that. And that's fine. The big point about this one is that it's missing the 5.6 gigahertz band. But the power measurement, otherwise the accuracy, it's not bad.
It's fine. Yeah.
The scale of volts per meter, it's interesting. I mean, typically meters, we use, microwatts or milliwatts per square meter. This company decides to to use the units of volts per meter, and we'll get into units more on the next meter.
Yeah, it's a relatively inexpensive meter, though. So
is relative, yes, but it's interesting. This is what led to the birth of the Safe and Sound Classic, because I wanted something that could easily fit in your pocket, that was simple to use, but was actually accurate across its claimed frequency range.
The next meter, the AM10. This big, hulking beauty.
The box. It looks pretty when you turn it on.
It's got a screen. It's got 2 LED range.
Right, one for
bars.
Peak, one for average, and an LCD that you cannot read if it's dark because there's no backlight.
Yes. I personally don't like it. I think it's hulky, like a bit chunky. It's big. It's awkward. It's not really portable for pocket use. Okay, apparently it is. You can fit it in your pocket.
Pretty cool with it.
You can fit it in your pocket. A pocket. It's got a decent battery life.
Yeah. I didn't know I could fit it in that pocket.
Oh, it is one of the few meters that does not turn off after 30 minutes. So that's interesting. Although I don't think you have data logging. So
no, there's an audio headphone output jack. But yeah, it stays on. So if you do want to leave it on your desk to find out what's going on.
Battery life is pretty good. 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah, 2 AA batteries. Yeah. So it's a good battery life. It's got the same RF detector antenna front end, is the term used in RF, as the Acousticom 2. So it's going to have the same missing frequency response at 5.6 gigahertz. Confusing thing is, I don't know why they chose to do this, but they show the average in microwatts per square meter and the peak in volts per meter. And if you want to know, I mean, it makes for a good conversion chart, because their corresponding values are just across from each other. But why 2 different values? We
would like to push for a standard form of measurement unit, just because it makes it easier to compare meters, determine measurements if you're not doing math well.
Right, exactly. So both are valid units. It's just why
not pick one?
So anyway, I do like the quick reference with the LEDs here. The display to me is, unless you're in a well-lit area, is difficult to read. But wow, it's a big meter, and the technology inside it is many years old.
Anyways, moving on to the Classic. The Safe Living Technologies Safe and Sound Classic. It is cute, pocket friendly.
Yes, this is definitely pocket
It'll
friendly.
definitely fit in your pocket. It'll even fit in girl pockets.
Okay.
It does. It is simple display, LED point, find source. Easy to use, super easy to use, and accurate for its claimed frequency range.
Right. Again, the reason for this thing being created was to have something that was actually comparable or even smaller, and that actually did measure across its claimed frequency range, especially the 5.6 gigahertz band. This one's been lab tested. The results are published. So when I travel, this is my meter of choice. It would be great, if the speaker were a little louder, but the thing is, most of the time with this one, I found that the speaker is too loud, and so if you just want to do a quick measurement or whatever, this is a very discreet meter. But anyway, it's
relatively inexpensive, comparable to everything else.
Yep.
Similar to the other prices on the
price
market.
Range. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's definitely my meter of choice for travel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the Safe & Sound Pro 2.
Yes.
It is the Safe Living Technologies version of the AM10. It has a display as well as LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
It is pretty easy to use, I would say. You just turn it on and it measures your environment.
Right. Very easy to use, very intuitive.
Again, very accurate over its claimed frequency range.
Yes. Exactly. This meter, you can read the display because it's an OLED display. It's bright and clear, so at nighttime, in the dark, or outside, you can read the display. And it carries over the same, what I like is the same functionality from the Safe & Sound Classic, is that at a quick glance with just these 4 colored lights on the top, you can kind of tell what range you're in. And again, we're showing high or extreme because we're transmitting around 650 megahertz for these wireless microphones.
The battery
life is
AA,
great.
yeah, really good.
Yeah, 2 double A's inside.
It's got a micro USB charger port.
Yeah, USB, headphone jack on the
jack.
output, but super simple to use. And the Pro 2 has the max reset, so you can see the maximum value that was detected. You push that button and it resets it without having to turn the meter off. Both these meters detect pulse widths below 5 microseconds. And
highly accurate.
Yeah, these meters didn't do so well. I think it was below 50 microseconds, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So, so if you're concerned about narrow pulse widths from devices like smart meters and things like that, you want to be aware of that.
Price comparable to everything else.
Right, comparable to
the AM10.
Right. Yep, something like that. I'm highly biased towards these last 2 meters. Because
we did the testing.
We
tried to find the testing on the other meters. We can't find it published anywhere. So overall, our personal star ratings for the HF59B.
Okay, yeah, this is going to be interesting. We didn't talk about this, but so out of
5 stars,
5-star rating, let's go through them.
I gave the 59B a 3-star. I think it's way too complicated, and it bothers me that it doesn't have a large frequency range. Also, it's heavy and clunky, but it looks super scientific, doesn't it?
It does.
It is.
It does look scientific. I gave it a 3-star rating as well.
Oh.
And for the same reason, it is I consider it sort of like a prosumer thing. It's a cross between someone that does RF testing in a lab or something like that. It is very expensive.
It's so expensive.
But again, this kind of RF engineering costs money.
It does.
And there is a way to do this with more modern technology that's not as complicated, and that's where we get into this area and what Safe Living Technologies did. So, 3-star for that one.
I agree. I did the same thing for the HF35C. I gave it 3 stars. They're very comparable meters. One's a little bit slightly easier to use, but again, they're expensive.
Right.
I'm kind of cheap.
I gave it a 2.5.
Ooh.
Because of the antenna that's included with it. Just less options for it. Let's see. Also, the 9-volt battery that's in there. We didn't talk about that. This one's rechargeable. So these things are fairly power hungry, and especially if you connect this antenna to this meter with a 9-volt battery, I don't think you're going to get much more than an hour at best with this thing. I gave it a 2.5. Again, it's these are if you have the omnidirectional antenna, you're going to be spending a lot of money, and it will give you accurate measurements.
Right.
But I want to stress that these directional antennas are not. I would not recommend them for biological exposure because they're not omnidirectional. They're just for pointing and finding sources. Then you switch to the omni and go, okay, now what am I
actually getting exposed
what
to?
am I getting exposed to? Okay, so 2.5 for me.
Interesting.
Okay.
Next, TriField. 2. And I think I was being generous because I like the screen. I do like the screen, but as far as RF goes, it doesn't do very well for what you would actually want to measure. It's like, how many continuous wave sources are there out there? Testing?
Not many anymore.
Yeah.
Used to be with broadcast stations, but they're all shifted to well, there's still the FM broadcast stations, but
Right.
TV is digital now.
Yeah, so I'm like, for biological relevance, I don't think it's great.
So
I just like it a lot.
So I gave it a
It's cool.
2 as well.
Ooh! Were you being generous as well?
No, I will say I wasn't being generous. What convinced me with this is that I looked inside all these meters. The low frequency E field and mag, the low frequency mag sensors, it's 3 axis. So it's fairly sophisticated. So for that aspect of it, I know we're comparing just RF.
Yeah.
But I'm biased because this one does do well as a Gauss meter, a low frequency meter, and the display and the knob and the knob. But for RF, absolutely don't use it for RF measurements. It's a detector. You can see if something is in the air, but as far as measurement accuracy, don't. Yeah.
Sometimes. Because it
sometimes, yeah,
at all.
Depending on frequency, but yeah.
The Cornet.
You first.
I gave it 2 stars. It's got a nice screen. I like the bar graph. I mean, the bar graph is slightly accurate sometimes.
Slightly accurate sometimes.
I was trying to be generous. I didn't want to be too mean. But as far as meters go, I don't like how inaccurate it is. I don't like the 9-volt battery at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them. I don't like 9-volt batteries. They're heavy. And they don't last very long. So for consumer grade meters, I dislike it.
So I actually gave it a 1. Just because of how it was designed and its inaccuracies. There's way too much information being presented at the same time. Yes, it has the advantage of being able to measure low frequencies, E fields and mag fields as well, but it does concern me that this meter has become fairly popular on the market, and I don't think people should be relying on its measurement, claimed measurements. Too much information. It's not intuitive. You do have to read the manual very carefully.
And when it actually works.
Yeah, I gave it a 1 just because it has become fairly popular out there, and that's a concern to me.
It is a concern.
Yeah.
The EMF 390, I gave it a 1 star because that was as low as I was willing to go.
Yeah. We can only go down to 1.
Well, apparently we can go down to whatever we want, but I didn't. Yeah, that was the lowest rating I was willing to go to. It's got a cool screen and it's got a good battery, but it feels heavy. It's not a good RF meter.
I didn't give it a rating.
It's not even on the field.
I gave it a 0 because I just, it's. I don't know what else. I don't know. We've said it. We're reviewing RF meters here, RF detectors, RF meters, and this to me is a toy and it's a nightlight.
Yep.
That's a strong statement, but if you turn it on and the levels are so inaccurate compared to everything else. I mean,
it's not even on the same field as any of the other meters.
So anyway.
So the Acousticom 2, I gave it, I gave that one a 0.5 star. I lied.
0.5. Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, it's going to be on the scale. But
okay, yeah.
I give the Acousticom 2 a 3.5.
Wow.
It's pretty good for most of the range. It's just that the 5.6 is pretty annoying. Mm-hmm. I like that it's pocket-sized. It's easy to use. As far as a consumer-grade meter, it's mostly good. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mostly. It's missing some serious bands, which is not great, but...
Right. So I gave that one a 2.5 because going back, I gave these meters, I think, I gave them this one a 3. And the reason I gave this 2.5 is because I think it's significant that it does not respond very well in 5.6 gigahertz. Otherwise, if it did, my rating would be up another 2 stars. Missing that band.
I like the ease of use.
Yes, the ease of use, the display.
I dislike how difficult these ones are to use. I like how easy these ones are to use.
Right. Now, the other thing for me was the 9-volt battery on this one. So lifespan. But yeah, it's too bad because there's a little bit of battery rattle there. But 2.5 for me. Yeah.
I gave the AM10 a 4-star rating. Again, I like this. I like that it has a nice scale on it. It's got enough information that you can probably take good measurements for most of your things if you know it's not measuring 5.6. Mm-hmm. I just don't hate it that much. I don't like the shape of it. Mm-hmm. It's not exactly comfortable to hold, so you have to makes me feel like I have baby hands. Mm-hmm. But other than that, no.
Okay, I gave this one the same score, a 2.5.
Ooh.
Again, because of the missing 5.6 gig band. And I also considered that a meter in this price range should be able to detect narrower pulses. And it doesn't do that well at lower pulse widths. And the display is difficult to read in low lighting conditions. So that's the reason I gave that one. So you were very generous.
I was a little generous. I didn't want to be banging on any of the other meters.
And I thought Kayla didn't like this meter, so maybe I should put it over here.
The Acousticom 2 is much more portable. I like that. I gave the Classic a 4.5. It's accurate. It's portable. It's cute. It is affordable, which is kind of important to me. I don't know about you. I like it. It's quaint and accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gave the Saving Sound Classic it was a 4.5 as well. Yes. Same things for the same reasons. Again,
accuracy, decent range.
Yeah, decent frequency coverage. So yeah, I mean, we might be kind of biased, but I mean, just looking at the data, the test data for these things.
We know which ones are more accurate.
Yeah.
And for the Pro 2, I may have given it a 5 just because I like the screen and it's comfortable to hold. It's really easy to use.
Right.
You can hear it, which
yes.
I personally hate the sound of RF.
Well, it depends what you're listening to. Yes.
No, exactly. I hate them all. It's a very high pitched sound, but it tells you what's going on, and it's got a decent amount of information on it. It's not overwhelming.
Yep.
I like it. And it's good, chargeable. Or it's like, you can plug it in. Sorry, it's not rechargeable.
Not rechargeable. You can plug it in. Yeah. No, absolutely. 4.5 for me as well. Basically for the same reasons that you said. And
yeah.
I think that covers it.
Yeah. We didn't find any other meters that we thought would be comparable. I'm sure there are some.
Yep.
It's difficult to get your hands on them sometimes. But overall, yeah, I would say, hopefully without bias, the Pro is my favorite.
Right, the Pro 2.
Yeah,
yep,
the Pro 2.
Absolutely.
Safe and Sound Pro 2. Okay.
Yep.
Anyways, thanks for sticking with us. Hope this was helpful, and we'll see you soon.